UKTHCTV, we burn the propaganda. UKTHCTV, we burn the propaganda. UKTHCTV, truth come through the camera. UKTHCTV, green man raise the banner.
That was good, people. Welcome to UKTHCTV. In this video, I'm reviewing Dante's Fire from my legal UK medical cannabis prescription. This is one of the individual strain reviews from my first monthly prescription review series. Every month, I'll be reviewing each product separately using the same repeatable criteria and rating system, so patients can properly compare different products over time. I'll also be releasing one full video monthly, ranking everything from worst to best, but these individual reviews are here for people who want to search for one specific strain without having to sit through the whole monthly episode, because not everyone wants to do that. I'm going to be brutally honest and extremely blunt every time. I'll hold cannabis to a very high standard, so I'm not going to sugarcoat bad quality at all, and I'm definitely not going to pretend something is amazing because it has high THC percentage or a nice bag appeal. Do you know what I mean? And I'm definitely not going to praise genetics that haven't translated into the flower. And I'm definitely not going to pretend that receiving flower with no terpenes is okay. Like, unless I'm specifically buying a pack that says low terpenes on it, then I shouldn't be getting a pack with low terpenes. Do you know what I'm saying? Straight up, I don't care. That's that point. That being said, I will still remain balanced and fair. A strain can be disappointing overall and still have a specific use case for certain patients, which I'll explain in a sec, because it does make sense, and I'm being completely fair in what I'm saying. These reviews are just the beginning of UKTHCTV, so you have to excuse that I'm a bit rusty. While I'm working on larger projects, the channel will also cover cannabis science, history, culture, patient interviews, documentary and infographic style videos, a full UK medical cannabis documentary, myths, propaganda, general nonsense surrounding both medical cannabis and cannabis as a whole, and the whole history of prohibition. Because let's be real, there's a lot of myths, propaganda, general nonsense and bullshit surrounding that. So everything will be grounded in evidence, reality, and what patients are actually receiving in regards to reviews, and in regards to anything that I put out. I will always try to make sure that everything is as true as it can possibly be, to the best of my knowledge and ability. I will make sure. I'm not just going to go off tangents about bro science or my opinion on things. Like, I'm going to say things how I know they are, you know. That said, let's get into Dante's Fire. Let's get into the review. Let's get into the photos. Let's get into all that good stuff. So here's the pack. And to be honest, when I first saw the pack, I thought, this looks interesting. This might be nice, you know. But unfortunately, it came out last of the 5 strains I reviewed this month. In order from worst to best, this was the worst. It was easily the most disappointing of the entire prescription, mainly because there was 0 detectable terpenes whatsoever. Realistically, apart from a musk. It was especially frustrating because the genetics themselves genuinely top tier, or they seem to be, but the finished product I received came nowhere near the potential of what it should have been, you know. It doesn't automatically mean it's bad and that nobody should buy it, but if terpenes, flavour, pungency and a full spectrum profile with more volatile compounds still present is important to you, I would personally stay well clear of this one. It was the first pack I went through because it was the weakest of the bunch, and I used almost all of it in around 2 days, on top of using several grams from the other 4 packs I had, by the way. Yeah. There was no real terps, and clearly it was harvested early. The effects were extremely light. I got through it very quickly, as I said, because there's no real reason for me to save it because I didn't want it. There was a very, very slight hint of nondescript sweetness in the taste, but that was about it. It was not pungent in any way whatsoever. So if you're looking for like a pungent, punch you in the face, smacks you with a pungent, skunky goodness, if you want that, do not buy this. Do not buy this. Straight up. I'll get to the other shots of it now. Alright, so we're going to go through the UKTHCTV rating system. This is going to be a repeatable thing that I'm going to do for every strain review, just so it's easy to compare, you know. There's something to actually compare things to. So for appearance, bag appeal, we've got 10 out of 10. For bag appeal, I had to give it a 10 out of 10. Visually, this looked incredible. The buds were extremely dense and absolutely stacked with trichomes. They were light green and white in places from the amount of clear and milky trichomes visible across the flower. Purely from appearance, it looked like it should have been one of the best products from the prescription. Straight up. It's true. Smell, 1 out of 10. I have to be blunt, there was virtually no smell. There wasn't. There was maybe a very muted, vague, extremely mild sweet jelly or cookie dough musk. Maybe even like a grape jelly. A very, very slight hint. Don't be expecting some potent sweet cookiness, like that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. For a strain with genetics like this, the lack of smell was genuinely disappointed. And it was disappointing. It really was, man. For sure. So we got taste, 1 out of 10 again. Taste gets a 1 out of 10 as well. Again, there was virtually no flavour apart from a very slight nondescript sweetness. That was about it. Nothing really translated properly. There was no strong taste profile to speak of, or smell. Density, bud structure, 10 out of 10. For density, gets a strong 10 out of 10. It was extremely dense. In fact, it was the densest out of all 5 packs I tried this month. The bud structure looked impressive, and visually it had very strong bag appeal, which it for sure did. Dryness, moisture content, it got a 1 out of 10. Now that might sound like a confusing rating, because 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, and I've given it a 1. And from the review, you can see for dryness and moisture content, I'm giving this a 1 out of 10, meaning I do not think it was well dried by the time it reached me. And by well dried, I mean correctly dried. It was well dried in the sense that it was very dry, but for me, that's not properly dried. There needs to be a certain amount of moisture content kept within the buds to retain the terpene profile properly, for the volatiles to not gas off, for curing to properly happen. There needs to be a certain amount of moisture. And if a batch has been just absolutely over dried to shit, there's no chance. Too late. The volatiles are gone. The like most of those terps have gassed the fuck off. Excuse my swearing, but it's just true. So it seemed extremely over dried in my opinion. Whether that contributed to the loss of smell and taste, I cannot say for certain. But it was definitely over dried from what I received. Despite the buds being dense, the flower crumbled between my fingers very, very, very easily. Like a dust. Like literally, poof, dust. Grindability, obviously, considering what I've just said, 7 out of 10. This one's harder to rate. Purely in terms of how well it ground out, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. It did grind out easily and a lot. But for me personally, that's because it was over dried. It dried out a lot because it was over dried. Yeah, so when flour's that dry, you can sometimes feel like you're getting more out of it, more for your money. Obviously, there's way less water content. And if there's less water content, water weight, you get more dry plant matter per gram, naturally, obviously, logically. And some people may prefer that, but me personally, I don't, because every time I've had flour that's over dried, there's been pretty much no smell or taste, which means the terpenes have just gassed off. So yeah, that's why it's getting that rating. And to be honest, it was a bit of a confusing one to rate, but you know. Effects, 5 out of 10. Effects wise, I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Honestly, it was extremely light for me, and I found myself going through the pack very quickly, which I did. I went through it within 2 days, and I was using all of the other packs that I had as well on the days that I used it. So it's not like I was just using that. So if that's any consolation to how quickly I used it, yeah. Obviously, I was using more of it because I had to use more of it to get the level of relief I needed, and I find that a lot with strains that, or batches rather, I should say, that don't have a great terpene expression or preservation, I should say, really. Most of the time, that's what it is. It's a lack of preservation. I find that, I truly believe, due to the entourage effect, that it's nowhere near as effective for me. And I can feel it. And not just I've spoken to people that use it recreationally too, and they say the same thing, that the flower is always better. They feel more euphoric. It hits them stronger when it absolutely stinks. It's a correlation, right? It's clear. Anyway, that being said, right, about the effects, 5 out of 10. It didn't cause anxiety, like I've said, and it could work as a daytime strain for some people. If you want something light, functional, discreet, and not too sedating, and doesn't give you any monged out couch lock effects, it doesn't affect your cognition in any way, at least it didn't for me personally. Obviously there's a use case here, for sure. Especially, like, you don't want to be stinking out of place. You don't. Sometimes you don't want to be stinking out of place. So there is a use for this, for sure. But again, there's a difference between a genuinely effective light daytime strain and a weaker strain that you end up needing more of. For me, Dante's Fire felt more like the second one. A good lighter strain should provide proper relief at a lower intensity. Sorry. This felt light because it lacked depth, lacked entourage effect, not because it was especially well balanced. That's why I've rated the effects halfway rather than completely writing it off and just dismissing it and cussing it out and telling you not to buy it, because that would be unfair and it wouldn't be completely honest, to be honest. So we've got overall value for money, cost 1 out of 10, obviously, because, like, for value for money, how can something that I'm using way more of and running through and blah blah, there's not value for money for me, is it? It's not. And like I just said, because of how quickly I went through the 10 grams, and because I had to use around twice as much compared to the other strains I had this month that did work for me, it wasn't cost effective for me. Even if something looks amazing, it still needs to provide enough relief to justify the cost. And for me, Dante's Fire did not do that at all. I'd rather use a smaller amount of a more effective strain than use twice as much of something weaker just to reach the same level of symptom control / relief. That is where the value completely falls apart for me. And I cannot justify buying it again, to be honest. I just can't. So, versus black market examples, and I'm going to do this for every single strain because I've tried a lot of strains. But obviously where it's not applicable, I can't really give it a review. I've never tried Dante's Fire outside of UK Medical, so I'm not going to compare for this one because I can't. I could guess, and I could go off other people's reviews, and I could, other people's experience with the strain, but I'm just not going to bother with that. Not this time. I'm sure there's many other strains that I can give a comparison to black market examples, but for this one, sorry, I can't. So we got the criteria score. All in all, we've got appearance / bag appeal, 10 out of 10. We've got smell, 1 out of 10. We've got taste, 1 out of 10. We've got density / bud structure, 10 out of 10. Dryness / moisture content, 1 out of 10. Grindability, 7 out of 10. Effects, 5 out of 10. Overall value for money / cost, 1 out of 10. Versus black market examples, not applicable. Very sorry for that. So that gives Dante's Fire a UKTHCTV criteria total score of 36 over a possible total 90. Yes, because we're rating 0 to 10, 0 to 10, and there's 9 different criterias. So there's a possible total score of 90, and Dante's Fire has scored a 36 out of a possible 90. Converted into a rough 10-point score, that works out at around 4 out of 10 as a total average, which is not great, to be honest. I wouldn't even give it that. For myself, if I was just rating it, I'd probably give it like a 2 straight up out of 10. I'm not even joking. Anyway.
UKTHCTV, we burn the propaganda. UKTHCTV, we burn the propaganda. UKTHCTV, truth come through the camera.